Willem, welcome to episode number 1 of the almost very popular Wimlex podcast here in Amsterdam.
Thank you so much, Alexander, and great to have you in Amsterdam today.
Thanks actually for the rooms here at the Debt agency, though maybe I can give our first listeners a little bit background how it came to the Wimlex podcast before we introduce ourselves to the audience. So I'm running a podcasting show in Germany called Kassenzone.de with German guests and German speakers. It's all about e-commerce, retail and digitization. And when we sat together here in your agency, I think a couple of weeks ago, we were discussing, what would be the best way to interact with our audience and with the Benelux and UK and Nordic market. And then we decided, it could be cool to have such a show in the Netherlands, and that's how we created the Wimlex show. And I think we gonna tell the listeners later on how we came up with the name. Before that, I would like you to introduce yourself, what you've done, and what you would like to ask our future guests as questions.
Thank you so much, Alexander. Yeah, so great to be hosting the Wimlex show together with you. You've have a very good reputation in Germany with Kassenzone, obviously. Maybe for the listeners who don't know me yet, my name is Willem Blom. I'm the founder of a digital marketing agency here in the Netherlands called XpandOnline. Founded in 2008 from my living room, together with 3 fellow friends that I know from university. And we've grown very rapidly in the Netherlands. We've grown up to about 100 people. And then we were approached by TomTom. TomTom is a digital agency here in the Netherlands, founded by Paul and Bart, 2 brothers.
TomTom is are this the same brand? They are pushing like this navigation system?
It's pretty similar in name, but they do different things. So they are focusing on building platforms, websites, apps, and other digital interaction items. So what we did is we actually merged with TomTom and became the foundation of Debt. And my role in Debt today is I'm responsible for all our data services. And that's also an important topic that I would love to bring to the Wimlex show. So I would love to engage with our future guests on the topic of data, how data is driving their decision-making within their companies, and how they're aggregating data and making sure that they make the right use of data. And besides that, an important topic for me has always been working with the right talent and finding the right talents within my company. And I'm very curious, especially since the marketplace for digital specialists is getting crowded, how those successful entrepreneurs are finding and nurturing talent. So for you listeners, those will be the topics that I would love to zoom in for the future guests.
So your company was founded in the same year when Kassenzone was founded, actually,
nice.
2008, and Zalando. So all the successful businesses have been founded in 2008. And if this is like the source of Debt, then Debt is also founded in 2008. The name came later. Maybe can you elaborate a little bit on how the e-commerce market looked like in 2008 when you founded your company? The e-commerce market in Germany was already very developed.
Yes.
In 2008, Zalando entered the scene and really turned around old strategies regards to online marketing and
yes.
TV marketing. I think that's something we're gonna deep dive with our guests. So can you tell us a little bit how it was here how it was like here in the Netherlands?
Yeah. So what we saw in the Netherlands back in 2008 is that the e-commerce landscape was developing. I wouldn't say it was developed, but it was growing very rapidly. And what we saw is that there were a lot of smaller pure players that came to the market a couple of years earlier that have grown rapidly. Pure players like Bol.com, Coolblue, but also players that come from a different market background like
How big was Bol.com back at the time? You know that?
I think maybe 500,000 in turnover, maybe smaller even, a couple of 100 millions. So they were relatively small back then. But yeah, they've obviously grown rapidly. But what we've seen since 2008, and what has been very interesting for me, is that back in 2008 we had pure player e-com companies and the brick and mortar stores. And what we see to date is that those pure player e-com specialists have ventured out to Main Street, and that Main Street has actually ventured into e-commerce or purchased pure player e-com players like bol.com, which was acquired by Ahold. So you see that those two worlds came together, and back in 2008 we were purely focusing on, with Google or, Facebook was still small at that time, but mostly with Google, driving the right traffic to a site and then converting on that site. Whereas today, we're looking at a full omnichannel spectrum and looking at how website traffic is driving sales in store, or how other offline activities are driving sales in shop. So you see that has really changed tremendously compared back to 2008.
And maybe one question from my perspective, because I'm not a big believer in omnichannel, and we will deep dive into that with a couple of guests, because I what I've learned is that omnichannel is like preventing pure play businesses to really prosper, and I haven't seen like a brick and mortar based business being successful in getting customers back from the bol.com likes or from the Zalandos or Amazons. Is that here in the Netherlands still a thinking that it's possible to get customers back or to win like the customer acquisition competition by pushing out omni-channel strategies?
Well, I think it is. Look, if you see the Dutch market, it's obviously small in terms of geographical size, and we see that people are usually close to retail streets as well. And what you will see is that although the Dutch e-com market is growing very rapidly, it's still maybe only 10 or 15% of the total retail spend in the Netherlands. And I think if you look at types of products like shoes, if you're buying shoes online, then the return rate is very high. So if you're a shoe retailer, it makes a lot of sense to drive people to your stores as well, because they can fit the shoe and see if it looks well and fits them well. And then if that's the case, the returns will be much lower compared to a transaction on a shopping site. So I think it depends on the type of products that you sell, but especially for products with high returns, it does make a lot of sense with a good data strategy, of course, because you need to find out who the persons are that are buying in your store, and then also interacting with your brand online. But for products that have high returns, it for me makes a lot of sense to also look at an omni-channel strategy.
Yeah, my take on this would be that even if this is right, so even if you can reduce return rates by having let's take the shoe case, by having a proper omni-channel setup in this case, where you know the customer is entering the store, what kind of shoes he bought online, and offering him like a tailored brick and mortar experience. What we're seeing is that those projects are so complex, and brick and mortar, so rent and paying the personnel is so expensive. Even if it makes sense, the pure play companies that stayed pure play and evolved more into a marketplace kind of structure, yes, for example, or in other services models like an Amazon or Zalando is pushing right now. This seems to be more successful in the Western world, which I would count in the Netherlands also. So, which would let me like to follow up question. So, what is like the percentages of popular categories in terms of online share? So, is there like more than 20% of shoes already sold online in the Netherlands, or 20% of fashion? Those are the rates we are seeing in the German market.
Yes. So yeah, I don't know exactly the rates, but to my recollection, they're maybe even higher than the 20% you refer to. And of course, there are a lot of pure player parties active in the market that are really focusing on driving those sales online and also managing the client relationship fully online. My take on it is that there are a lot of strong retail players that also need to develop a strategy. And that was also one of my questions to you, because we've seen a lot of bankruptcies here in the Netherlands from big retailers like V&D or fashion brands like McGregor.
Where's V&D? What assortment?
They had a broad assortment. It's like a Macy's that sold all kinds of products. It's a warehouse, as we would call it. And I think for those companies, developing a good omnichannel strategy is the only way to survive. And of course, if you refer to the Zalandos or the Amazons that have started from an online background, it makes a lot of sense that their core focus is on driving those digital sales. But for those companies that don't want to be the next V&D or McGregor, they need to develop a strategy that has digital in their core, but also take into account the retail network they have. So what's your view on them, on those retailers that need to become e-tailers?
Yeah, maybe I give you like a brief summary on my background,
yes.
and then I will try to take this question, because I think we are not like 100% aligned in this strategy, but this is gives us like a nice spectrum for questions for our guests. So I've started a company called the Otto Group in Germany as a corporate career. And in 2005, the Otto Group was claiming to be the biggest multi-channel retailing company in the world. And multi-channel, omnichannel was like the model, the winning model, more or less, from a strategic perspective. And we tried a lot of things with the Otto Group brands and tried to refactor like the Otto platform. It was on a legacy Intershop platform and really slow. And then they tried to build their own stuff. And they have not been very successful by trying to refactor their own brands. They have been successful recently in putting a lot of money in a brand called About You, which is also active in the Netherlands, and which is kind of a greenfield try to compete with Amazon, ASOS, and the other companies. And that really influenced my thinking, because I was involved in the About You Foundation, because in 2011 I left the Otto Group to join a company called Net Impact, an agency like your agency was. We built a lot of stuff. We found a lot of companies. One of the biggest shopware companies called NetShops, an agency in Germany, a very big digital consultancy where we helped a lot of brands, manufacturers, retailers, which is now becoming the biggest digital consultancy in Germany, called eTribes. And one of our incubation projects was About You, where our co-founder Tarek Müller joined then the Otto Group and a part of our the Net Impact agency team. In 2014 and 2013, when we did a lot of these incubation and consultancy projects, lots of companies had learned that their transformation projects had been too slow, that they, even if everybody was convinced, the CEO, the people, all board members were convinced of like transformation, it was too slow. And there was no real way to transform a legacy company, to transform a company that was like a former shoemaker, to transform a company that was like a B2B manufacturer. And it became more and more clear with the About You case and with other cases that the only way to transform companies is to bet on legacy-free ventures, where you don't have to transform people, where you don't have to transform business models. And this has reasons in many ways. And this was the reason why we founded the software company Spryker, because lots of customers ask us for a cheaper Demandware or a better Magento or a better Hybris or something they could use and just integrate in their IT departments. But we've learned that the only successful companies, should it be Zalando, should it be Picnic, should it be Ocado, should it be About You, had been companies that really in-housed IT capabilities and explained their USP through better IT capabilities, because it's not about selling better shirts anymore. It's about selling better. And this selling better And that is actually what would have been the answers for VPN. The selling better has nothing to do with legacy strength, like opening new brick and mortar stores or changing like the ceiling or the lighting in the store. It's about having like better personalization capabilities, having a better CRM, having a better product data online, having like better tracking, having do everything to create a better customer experience. And that's something where you need to be better than the rest of the market. Might be 2%, 5%, 10% better. That's something you can't buy off the shelf. And now the problem is, like, even for big retailing companies, and you named a few here in Holland, the problem is that, of course, they are asking, how can we compete with the new ones? And I think even Zalando is entering the market with a very fast pace. And there is no easy answer to this. There's no standard strategy. But what we know is it's all about the modus operandi. They need to find a mode where they are able to push strategies that are not secure. And that is, so they need to take like 10%, 20%, 30% of their revenue in strategies where they don't know if there's going to be ever a payback in the future. And they most probably need to invest much more on IT and IT capabilities than they had before. And that can't be done by just taking the former head administrator of the IT system and rename him to CTO or CIO and say, okay, now let's play a little bit Zalando. That can only be done in very, very radical moves. And so my answer would be omnichannel or strategies that are implemented to reinvent the legacy business models might be looking nice on paper, and there might be cases even for customers that purchase a shoe online and bring him back in brick and mortar environment. But implementing those strategies take so long, and they are so unsecure, and usually they are only serving like 5% or 10% of the potential customers. It's much easier and much more promising to put your money in more risky greenfield strategies. And that is a very, very...
Then do you believe that innovation itself and improving a business model is or let me say incremental innovation? So the business model of, say, the Bijenkorf here in the Netherlands. Yeah. It's a large retailer warehouse. What they've done is, and I think that was a very good strategy, they've said, okay, we see the interest of digital, and we see that our clients are requesting our products online. So we need to develop a shop. We need to develop a very good one-to-one communication strategy with our clients. We need to develop content for our digital assets. We need to develop a data program. So they've done all these assets, but I think for them that's all done from their core business model, which was selling a large array of products, mostly clothes. Do you then think, as the Bijenkorf has done here in the Netherlands, that strategy was an exception, or do you believe that incremental innovation and improving a current business model is dependent on what your background is still a strategy to pursue? For example, would you recommend others who look at the market and who see About You or Zalando or the Bijenkorf to set up a team outside of their core business and outside of the company, say corporate startup? Or would you see innovation take place within the company boundaries and within current structures? Yeah,
though that's very complex actually, but I would be very carefully when it comes to best practice strategies. That's usually like in consultancy projects, you try to find out what did Zalando, what did About You, what did Amazon, and try to copy it. So that usually never worked out, because what About You did in 2012 or Zalando did in like 2008 to grow, to enter market, doesn't work anymore. So strategies are really changing rapidly, and the businesses are changing rapidly. The businesses that are successful by doing like incremental innovation. And I would say Amazon is such a business. It started with like selling books and then became like a marketplace and then started AWS, IT services. And now it's becoming one of the biggest advertising platforms, which is a good thing for Factor A, a company you recently acquired. They, I would say, they are doing like incremental innovation out of a position of strength. So their existing business model is super valid, is super profitable, but they're taking almost all the money they have and putting it on the next bet. The business models we are seeing, especially in retail, they usually don't act out of a position of strength. They know their market is shrinking. They are not able to attract talent anymore. They are not able to attract like the best strategists anymore, and they are forced to innovate. And if you're in such a position, if you're like forced to innovate, if you don't act out of a position of strength, I would be very carefully to put my money in a legacy environment which is already lacking innovation, which is already lacking relevance for the customer, and I would put the money probably on a green field. So, and that is actually very hard to do, and there's no general rule here to that. But in an, I would say, Amazon-driven environment where we are in right now, in most cases, it's better to put your expensive bets outside of the legacy environment, and of course I would call it electrification and not digitization. Of course you need to update your ERP system. Of course you need to get rid of like old cash systems in the store. Of course, blah, 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 all this stuff. But this won't help you to find new revenue streams. This won't help you to find like new talent. And there's no real innovation behind it. It's only electrification, I would say. And most people most companies are not acting out of strength. They saved a lot of money in digitization because they thought that they can still run the linear strategies. They open new stores, they open new markets, they put in new brands in their assortments, and everything will be fine in the future. And I wish I would be able to tell them, everything is going to be fine. You can now have like a nicer software and some cultural change, and put some kicker in the offices and some club mate and clap together and blah blah blah. But that is not the case. Actually, if you're looking into very successful digital companies, it's not a nice working environment. Usually, it's very 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 hard to digest what is happening there because there's so much change, and actually people are not adapted to change. Big organizations actually explain themselves by decreasing risk, so they are able to manage risk. And successful digital companies say, okay, we are not able to manage risk, we are able to manage chances, and that's a very very different thing. And if we go back to VDN, what was the name? VND. Sorry. If we go back to VND, what could have been done better or so? Probably they would have needed to start like 15 years ago out of a position of strength, but even like 5 years ago. It was too late, and it would have been the better choice to sell everything. Who is interested in like big boxes or big warehouses and put the money on the Amazon stock. That is what I see in the market.
And then you mentioned Amazon as a big example, and I'm a firm believer and fan of Amazon as well. For the listeners, the non-Dutchies to you, Amazon is not yet active in the Netherlands, but already the number 7 e-commerce store.
Not with an own domain,
not
but
with an own domain.
A lot of boxes here.
Yes, from the Amazon.de webshop. But the funny thing is, I read on your profile because I've been zooming into you as well, learning more about Alexander Graf. And you give a lot of lectures and talks on the future of Amazon. And one talk that intrigued me was called the Amazon Dilemma.
Yeah.
What to you is the dilemma of Amazon?
Yeah. A tricky question here, Willem. Maybe some listeners know from game theory the prisoner's dilemma.
Yes.
It's a very, very popular dilemma where the Nobel Prize was given for, and it explains actually the situation of like two prisoners who get like an offer from the prison's director that they can get free when one would tell the truth and the other is lying. So and it creates. It's very hard to explain in a podcast, but it creates an environment where it's only lose-lose situation for the prisoners. And the Amazon dilemma is that vendors that already have like a big part of their revenue relying on the Amazon platform, they can't get out. So those vendors are punished more and more by Amazon. Amazon is demanding more and more advertising money from them, though they lose more or less every right. They're becoming, in German, there's a proverb, a small candle. Yeah? They don't have a say anymore.
Yeah.
And even as a vendor, even if you're understanding that situation, your dilemma, there's no way out. You can't build a cartel with other vendors. You can't push Amazon in a direction that is helping you in the future. The only thing you could do is to be the most clever prisoner. And
but is that then Amazon's dilemma or the producer's dilemma?
No, the producer's dilemma. Okay. Amazon is a prison.
Amazon is the prison.
I think the learning here for listeners is it's good to be the prison owner. Yeah? So yes. If you're able
to build a platform.
I think in strategy books it's called be the marketplace or be the platform, but in reality it's be the prison. Yeah? You have to lock in the customer and maybe that's another interpretation where lock-in comes from. Amazon really locked in the customer. Yeah. In Germany, it's somewhere between 50 to 70% when for all purchasing customer journeys, they're starting now at Amazon. So if your products are not showing up when you're searching for a gardening sprinkler, though you won't be bought as a brand, and that's very, very hard. That's very hard to manage. And I know in this thinking there's the learning here for the companies, it's not only manufacturers and there's other companies involved here, is very hard to digest. So, of course, you have to be the best prisoners. So otherwise, Amazon is creating the market, and there's no foreseeable future where Amazon is going to be regulated in a way that's going to be help vendors. On the other side, you need to protect your customer access, and that's not be doable by, I would say, lame omnichannel strategies. You must be really pushing for like new interfaces, new interaction points, new digital assets, because stores are too expensive or too expensive to manage, and this leads to a very, very innovative situation. And I think that's helping companies like yours and us, where customers don't look at IT at the cost center anymore, or digital at the cost center anymore, where it's always about, okay, let's buy the next online shop for the cheapest price possible, or let's buy the next CRM system for the cheapest price possible. But when they realize, shit, the online shop, the app, the CRM system, my data warehouse you're helping me to create, that's the thing how I differentiate myself from the competition. So maybe I shouldn't give it like to the third manager of the IT department. Exactly. I'm letting do. Maybe it's an executive project, and we are seeing like this thinking is now kicking in.
What we see at our clients as well. I think if you look at digital, it's changed from the plate of the CIO to the CMO. And where in the past, the CIO mostly looked at the cost and the pricing, and the purchase department was quickly around the corner. Now we see that digital, especially in e-commerce, is at the plate of the CMO, where it is a profit center. Yeah. And where he's using digital and data and all assets that he's working with to create a better customer acquisition strategy and a better customer engagement strategy. And we see that that's now done by digital work, digital agencies, but also people the company has in their own team working on digital strategies. And we really see a change there in the marketplace. So we become from a cost center, we've become a profit center. And the funny thing is, the way we work is we don't just deliver a platform, but also think of innovative ways to engage with those customers. So we're being approached as a growth partner as well. And that's I think what also is important for CMOs now to realize that digital is not just an acquisition of a CRM or a data warehouse. We have a lot of discussions right now going on aggregating data and making sure that you can interpret the full customer journey. That's only a starting point. So if you really want to get out of that prison, and if you really want to make sure that you be that innovative leader, I think brands need to be aware of the way their customers are behaving and understand in a better way than others do what the journey look like, and be under the skin of the consumers and understand how each different content piece or channel they use or a moment in time where a customer is interested in a brand is working. And if you understand that better than, for example, a marketplace does, then I think you have a chance of survival and of maybe a multi acquisition strategy, both using Amazon for their great asset, which is like you said, 50 to 70% of new customers using Amazon, as well as having a direct to consumer strategy in which, for example, loyalty programs can play a very important role in having better engagement.
Yeah. So, but just to be honest, so I see two ways why customers are approaching us, and or two reasons. So one reason is ambition, because like people really want to push new strategies because they really understand like that there's a need in transforming and changing business models. But I would say 90% of the customers, not only at Spryker but all the other ventures I'm holding shares, 90% are driven by fear. Usually fear created by Amazon, but they have realized, because the market forced them to realize that it's nothing, the cost center view is not enough. So do you see it the same here in the Netherlands?
Well, luckily we don't have that fear factor yet. Well, actually,
it will come.
It will come. But it's not as big as in Germany, or in the UK, or well, any other market where Amazon is active. So right now, I see a lot of brands still innovating based on their best assumptions instead of a fear factor. And I think that's a good thing, because that's also what is creating innovation. You mentioned Picnic before. It's a great example of a wonderful company that is disrupting the supermarket way of work and has developed a completely new way of distributing food to consumers. So I think that innovative approach of the Dutch is still present year to date, but yeah, I think like what happened in Germany, Amazon will change a lot. Yeah. How did that work in Germany? Because how fast did this rate of working from your strength to the fear factor become omnipresent?
How fast? Yes. I would say, there's like, it looks a little bit different from assortment to assortment. Right now we are seeing more and more bankruptcy in retail, especially brick and mortar companies. Yep. I think today is a day when Amazon first hit like $2,000 mark, and Zara, like the Inditex holding, which is like the poster child of every vertical integrated fashion company, got like a big hit from analysts and losing a lot of value. Wow. I think the Zara owner today lost like 5 billion in revenue. So it's only starting now. I think we are in Germany, especially in a situation where Amazon grew in the last 2 years in a way that was unbelievable. I actually did some analysis before our show. So globally, they are growing $150 million per day compared to last year. In Germany, that means €15 per day. And if you compare it with ambitions of some of multi-billion-dollar customers saying, okay, In 2025, I plan to have 50 million online revenue. That's something Amazon is doing like just in growth in 7 hours. And in total, it's doing 50 million in less than 1 hour. So that's kind of the momentum we are there. I think within the last 2 years, it's changed a lot, because all the linear strategy and from my point of view, most omnichannel strategies have proven to be not good enough to get customers back or to be profitable enough. But I think there are like new businesses coming out, and it creates lots of entrepreneurial momentum. And Picnic is a very good example. I interviewed the Picnic founder from my Kassenzone.de podcast, the German Picnic founder, last week. And I hope we get one of the founders here for our Wimlex podcast very soon. I'm very hopeful that it's going to work out. So it's hard to say. I think it's just starting, and that's why I'm so excited to have a show with you, because it's very good to compare the momentum of the markets.
I agree.
To learn from each other. Maybe before we are like telling everything what is really exciting in the first show, what are the questions you will ask our future guests in the podcast?
Yeah, so for me, as said before, I'm a data guy. My father and grandfather were both math teachers, so I'm really interested in numbers, and for me that's interesting to learn from our guests as well. So we have Ben Waldring coming in today.
Yeah,
we will be interviewing him, and Ben Waldring, the youngest founder of a company here in the Netherlands. He started many different affiliate models.
That is still his brand?
That is still one of his assets. And actually, he was part of the team who inaugurated our King Wimlex here in the Netherlands. So,
oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think it was King's Day, a couple of years ago.
Oh, so maybe that's a good point in the podcast where you can explain where the Wimlex show name comes from.
Actually, obviously, your name is Alexander and my name is Willem. And that's the name of our king. And usually the name of our king is I don't know the English correct word for this. I think it's abbreviated, but it's shortened into Wimlex. So that's the twist that we gave her.
And he has a German father.
And he has a German father, yes.
Yeah,
so the German-Dutch connection is there as well.
There's actually no alternative to the Wimlex show name.
It
was clear from the very first. It was
clear from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yes, and I would love to ask our guests on their view on data, on how they're using data to make future decisions, make current decisions, are aggregating data from different resources, from sales, from marketing, from finance. I'm really curious to learn about that, and Ben will be the kickoff for our show. So happy to learn how Bella.com and the other ventures looking for booking are using data to grow his business.
Yeah. So my questions are more like e-commerce related, because I was, as you, introduced in the e-commerce market, pretty much influenced by online marketing strategies. So I'd like to know where do the customers come from and what do they cost? Like it's like a very, very SEA specific question. How loyal they are, very important question for most retail business models, and how profitable is a business, because I'm learning that most businesses are now setting up revenue streams that don't rely on retail anymore, but on data, for example, or on marketing services. It's not only Ben we are getting as a guest today, it's also Willem Castello, the founder of a very, very interesting venture selling windows with a solar cell integration for offices. Very cool. And tomorrow we have two guests on the Depth Festival. You know them better. I think it's Josh and Jason.
We have Josh Luber. He's the founder of StockX. It's a really cool company. He actually was a data guy as well, and he was assessing the cost of buying and selling a second-hand pair of sneakers.
Cool.
Then he met the founder of the Cleveland Cavaliers, the owner of a big US NBA team, who had exactly the same idea to set up a marketplace. It's actually a trading place where supply and demand prices are based on the average volume that's being sold. So it's like a stock index on sneakers. And he's actually going to be interviewed on his StockX company.
Yeah.
And then also Jordan Watson. Jordan Watson is a very cool influencer. He's a dad and he made videos called How to Dad on his now 3 daughters. So he's an expert on video marketing, on influencer marketing. He has, I think, 2 million views on YouTube with every video that he's produced. He's a best-selling author as well. So we're both fathers, so we can learn something from him.
Yeah, and maybe that's important to understand for our listeners. That we are also recording our podcasting sessions with the camera, so you can watch them on YouTube on the Wimlex. No, there's no Wimlex channel. I think we have decided to put the videos on the Depth channel and the Spryker channel.
Yes.
So just we will tell the marketing leads later. So, but we need to we put them there on Facebook. And I think one important thing, and that I learned from the German podcasting show, is that we really depend on the interaction with our listeners. So whenever they have ideas of who we should interview, whenever they have a deep dive question on existing podcasts, they can send an email to us. We are setting up an email address where they can send us information which we both are receiving and answering. But I'm pretty sure it's not only today and tomorrow for our Amsterdam show. There's going to be more shows in Amsterdam, probably Berlin and Stockholm and other cities where we are hosting guests which have like a connection to retail and manufacturing and selling online. And we ask them question how they're going to survive in an Amazon world. So, Willem, lots of thanks for a first podcasting show. Here it's getting louder outside, so we need to close the first.
There's a football game going.
Yeah, it sounds like a football game that we should join in, and then we should prepare for Ben. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Alexander.